they're going to do something with it. And you know, occasionally we see bad results come out of that from the recent ones late last year and this year. Was it Silver Pop in December, which is the mailing list, and the
Epsilon.
And Epsilon, thank you. Yeah, Epsilon a couple of times this spring. And that's, I mean, you know, we use services like that. All large enterprises use services like that. So, but they may be standing at websites that, you know, are associated in our case with UPS or your business, but the CIO doesn't necessarily know that they existed or that they're representing our brand and that they're doing information processing of some sort. But realistically, they're web applications, they're ours, they're representing us, and we're responsible for them. So collecting that inventory has become an ongoing process. I mean, we're in pretty good shape now. I mean, you know, this is almost 3 years into the program now. But from day one, it was surprisingly scary. There were, you know, obvious things we knew and a lot that we didn't know. So we, you know, as we went along, we adjusted the program. We started with known programs. One of the other things that we did, and this is the part where it starts to relate to Owasp, is that we knew among just running scans on the applications and finding flaws and getting people to fix them, not everybody has the knowledge that they need to either A, recognize what you're talking about, you know, so I've got the SQL injection vulnerability. Oh, really? And, you know, it's just, I mean, it's not on their radar. They're just, you know, ignorant of the things. Not that they're bad people, they just never run across it. You know, so you have to provide some training for them, and so we did. The first stage was we had a series of computer-based training modules that were focused on the real sort of abstract beginners 101 level. Introduce the concept, and here's a couple of examples, and here's some code snippets that you might use in your code. Real basic stuff, but you got to start somewhere, and frankly, some of that's appreciated by people, you know, particularly if they're, you know, less experienced. They just haven't been in the trade that long.
Randy, did you develop those yourself?
No, those we purchased. Those were, I can't remember the name of the vendor, but I know they're sold through a variety of ways. We actually purchased them through a larger education package that we had. We've got some sort of big budget for CBT through a big vendor that does that. And this is one of the 300 modules that they have. So they're out there. There's a couple of variations on that. We had thought of putting some of this stuff together. We have in fact put together, developed our own training for the basic information security concepts that might in some way be considered a precursor to even this. And in fact, that's a different part of the story, but we had a mandate from the CIO to get that out to all the IS people, actually the year prior to this. So those are out there too. So I guess you could say that there's sort of a mix of homegrown stuff, a little bit of that on the basic concepts and what they mean to our enterprise, and then the sort of professionally developed stuff. Here's different types of specific vulnerabilities. Here's how you recognize them. Here's what you would do to prevent them in a particular type of code. So we did that. We developed a fairly complex methodology for scanning the applications with a particular commercial tool that we acquired, and even after we found the application we're looking at, identifying in some cases who the current owner of this, who we were going to hold accountable, was also an interesting challenge. Just from the detective point of view as well as from the political point of view, who's getting dinged in front of the CIO for the current state of things. So the name of the game was to, in effect, count vulnerabilities, give them some weighting, and every month it was sort of like a list of demerits. Okay, so let's say you had 10 specific web applications in your portfolio. You're one of the VPs that report to the CIO, and so you've got these 10 applications every month, and your point total for this month is 10,000. And so the CIO's message would be, Harumph, okay, it's 10,000, I'm not sure what that means, but I gotta look like a CIO here. And so what are you gonna do to reduce that by 50% by next month? Is the typical question, right? Or some such thing, right? He's a leader, so he can do those things. So those are the kind of conversations that would be taking place at the executive level. In fact, we were coming in every month at the CIO's request. Sure, it was a request, mandate, and to get up in front of his staff and say, here's what we found this month. Here's how it relates to what happened the previous month. And of course, they go through all this stuff. We ended up developing the training more. Some of this out of conversations with developers was that the CBTs that they got were just really too lightweight for probably the vast majority of them. Fortunately, one of our members of our staff in Louisville, Kentucky is really a genius at this kind of work, extremely knowledgeable, an accomplished developer himself, and has the other useful skill of being able to teach this stuff very well under a wide variety of experiences. So using our sort of baseline set and using the full set of Owasp materials and using some other things that he developed, we actually put together fairly intense training courses on individual vulnerabilities in different environments, and actually did multi-hour workshops with the development community to work them through how do you recognize this stuff, how do you prevent it, what are the actual code snippets do, and what is actually happening. And so that was greatly appreciated. We're expanding that program slowly but steadily. One of the outcomes for Owasp on this is that we were able to convince our organization to sponsor Owasp this year. We're very proud of that. I certainly hope we'll continue doing that. So we raised a lot of awareness through the training programs. The developers themselves said that really this is something that needs to be made mandatory across the entire development community, including in some way the outsourced developers that we have. And of course, that's again a political and resource decision. I don't necessarily want to pay for training people who presumably came in with the appropriate skills, but it's an interesting conversation that you need to have. And they also said, well, we need you to help us get more buy-in from our executive management to free up some time in the schedule so we can actually absorb this stuff and apply it, and help us convince our executives that in fact they'll see the results out of this, so they're not getting beat up by the CIO. So that's a good thing. I told you a little bit about the buy-in conversations that we're having. One of the good things that came out of this, in the first year the CIO said, this would have been 2009, he said to his staff, they're going to come in and report on this every month, and we have we want you to change at a particular pace. And so we went through a lot of explanation of that. In the second year, in 2010, he says, okay, so we made progress on this. He says, so I want you to continue that, and this year we're putting a spin on it that a certain part of your compensation for the year is going to be tied to this. Yours and your organizations. So, it's not like, your bonus is going to disappear, but like most organizations, we've got some balanced scorecard. We've got, 37 elements on there that you get so many points for each one that you did good, and so many demerits for things you missed, and they run it into the hopper whenever at the end of the year and turn it crank, and your salary raise comes out to be nothing or something, or 1.3%. Yeah.
How do you measure the number of vulnerabilities and things like that? What percentage of that comes from your scan tools what percentage comes from manual?
Well, we were, to keep things simple, 100% of the demerits, the points